Traveling with a stoma can bring up some anxiety for me, and I've heard that from many other people as well. Today, I'll share some tips on how you can get through the travel experience with as little stress as possible. The very first thing I want to recommend is always bring way more supplies than you think you're going to need, okay? I typically will double my supplies that I expect to use during the trip. My last trip, I was out of town for 2 nights, and I packed as if I would be gone for 4 nights. I actually brought 4 bags because it's not a lot of extra space. Didn't use a single one during the trip. The reason we want to carry a lot of extra materials and supplies for our ostomy is because we can't plan for the unexpected. Maybe we're going to have more leaks than we expected. Maybe it's going to be a very adventurous and outdoorsy type of vacation, and that could potentially lead to some leak issues. Perhaps there's going to be some unexpected flight cancellations or layover extensions. Perhaps we're going to damage supplies while we're on our vacation. That can happen too. So we always want to pack way more than we think we're going to need. That number is unique to the individual, of course, but for me, it's twice as much as I think I'm going to need because my ostomy supplies don't really occupy a large amount of space. So I'm comfortable with carrying that many when I travel. I think it's important to know the brand names and the product numbers of the different products that you're going to use when you're traveling. I will typically take a photo of the product and the product number, and I'll email it to myself so that it's accessible wherever I am, even if I lose my phone. That can be critical, especially if, like I said, flights get canceled or there's some type of an emergency where you need to stay at your location longer than expected. We're going to need to find a backup plan to get the supplies, and that information can be very helpful. We always want to divide our supplies. It's kind of like a gold miner who never keeps all his gold in one stash. Basically, I like to put most of my supplies in my suitcase, and then I'll carry a few days worth of supplies in my carry-on bag or my backpack if I'm in the car. And then I always have a third bag, and it's my emergency kit. Like I said, 70% of my supplies are going in the suitcase. Another few days of supplies are going in my backpack or carry-on bag. And then there's always going to be that one small little plastic bag that's going to be my emergency kit. That means that if something happens, I'm grabbing that bag, finding a bathroom, and taking care of what I need to take care of. And inside that little bag, all I have is a pair of underwear, a pair of shorts, a t-shirt, and I have 2 bags, along with 2 barrier rings and 2 easy wipes. And you might ask, why 2? Well, there are times where I put a bag on and it just didn't sit correctly, and I had to take it off. And so, although that's a rare occurrence for me, it could happen. And I don't want to be in the bathroom in an emergency situation and have a problem with the first bag. So I always keep 2. Those are the 3 ways to spread out your materials. And even if your emergency kit bag is inside your carry-on, I do it that way, but I still want to know that I'm not fumbling through my carry-on amongst all the other different things I may have in there trying to find my supplies. So it's always a small plastic bag, and it's filled with everything I need. I like to recommend that you pre-cut your bags, especially the ones going in your emergency kit and your carry-on. I do carry scissors when I travel, and I do cut my bags on the road, but in an emergency situation, the last thing I want to do is have to worry about finding the scissors and cutting out the hole in the barrier on the bag. So I pre-cut my barriers, at least 2, sometimes 3. It's not going to matter. I'm going to use the bag eventually anyway, but it can save me one step when I'm traveling and when I may find it more inconvenient to take a few extra minutes and take care of that small detail. And again, I'm always making sure I carry extra bags, extra barrier rings, extra easy wipes, extra disposable bags for the materials that I'm taking off. All of these things are essential, and we don't want to forget any of them. But when we remember to pack the essential supplies, and when we do it in an organized fashion, we can breathe a lot easier. I promise you that. Okay, how do you get through airport security? My last trip was probably one of the worst experiences I had with getting through airport security because he wanted to pat down my bag. Specifically, he wanted to pat it down, and that's the first time that had happened. I've always had to show my bag when I get through the screening. I wear my stealth belt. And whether it's the belt or the bag, I don't know, but the scanner goes off. I get pulled aside. I pull up my shirt. I show them the belt. And no one's ever asked me to reveal my bag to them. And from my understanding of the law, they're not allowed to. But this particular situation, they did pat down the actual bag itself through the belt. And they had to do the explosive test on their hands. And then they had me pat the bag down. And they did the explosive test on my hands. And it was very uncomfortable at the time, but it wasn't such a big deal. I just have to remember this is going to happen. I felt like people were watching. I felt a little uncomfortable, but I can say that this is probably the worst moment of the travel experience for me when I do fly. And it's just something I'm going to have to get through and handle because traveling is important to me. I like to do fun things. And that one moment of discomfort is not enough to keep me home. I also want to say that you can get a medical card from UOAA, and that card can indicate that you have a medical condition, and you can show that card to the TSA agent. And while it's not going to get you out of the screening, it can help the communication process be a little smoother. It also is a reminder to you that you can have a private screening if you choose. If you're feeling really uncomfortable, you can ask to be screened privately somewhere, and you're allowed to bring a companion with you into the room. So these things can hopefully help make the situation with the TSA screening a little easier to absorb. I will say that having a travel identification card indicating your medical condition can be of probably extra value if you're traveling internationally. You have to remember that foreign countries are not going to be operating with TSA standards. And sometimes that card can help bridge the gap in understanding what it is you're trying to communicate to them. I would recommend that if it's a foreign language in that particular country, that you make sure the card is translated into the foreign language. You may want to consider getting a doctor note and having that translated into the foreign language as well, just to help make it a smoother experience for yourself, depending on any kind of situation that might come up. You also want to make sure if you're traveling internationally that you know where you're going to be able to get backup supplies in case there's an emergency. You know where you can find medical help in case there's an emergency. And that's also a situation where sometimes having a doctor's note can help. And along the lines of having a doctor's note, it's important to remember that airlines often will allow people like us who use a specific medical bag to carry their supplies to get that free of charge in terms of the baggage cost. So contact the airline first. I can't give you detailed information on each airline, but I do know that's a common practice with several airlines. And the only stipulation being that you have to make sure that the bag that you're claiming for free only contains your medical supplies. It can't have other things mixed up in there. Don't forget TSA Cares. All that is a program that TSA has that allows us, anyone with some type of disability or medical condition, to get a little extra help when we show up at the airport. Usually it means there's a liaison that's going to kind of walk us through the process. That person could also potentially help communicate to TSA what the medical condition is that we're dealing with. It's your choice if you feel that you need that extra layer of help, but it is available. All right, let's talk about pouch management and bathroom access. The most important thing is empty the pouch before you leave the house. When you get to the airport, as soon as you get inside, before you go through the TSA screening, empty your pouch again. That's going to make it a little easier, especially if you get the pat down. After you get through the screening, I would recommend that you immediately empty your pouch again. As a matter of fact, I would recommend that while you're at the airport waiting to depart, that you empty your bag as frequently as you notice it filling up. If it gets a third full, half full, go to the bathroom and empty it. Because in these types of situations, we're not going to have all the opportunity for full control over our bag situation. So it's best to head things off at the start. I always empty right before boarding. When I get on the plane, I'm always very conscious and aware of my bag's fill level. I want to make sure that, if I'm flying and I'm 4-hour flight, maybe a 5-hour flight, I'm not waiting until the last minute to empty the bag because perhaps they have asked us to remain in our seats due to turbulence or any other reason. So I want to make sure that my bag is being emptied frequently. I also always get an aisle seat. Now, I remember that from my days with colitis. I had colitis for 15 years, and I never got a window seat, as much as I missed that because I like seeing the beautiful view out the window. But I always got an aisle seat because I needed immediate access to a bathroom, and I still feel the same way. I want to be able to get out easily, quickly, and do what I have to do. Now, if you're doing a road trip instead of a flight, it's the same scenario. Sometimes I'll travel from Phoenix to Las Vegas, and that's about a 4.5-hour drive. Worst case scenario, but there's a lot of stretches there where no access to facilities. And I have to be very careful to remember that every chance I get to use a bathroom, I'm going to use it. Even if I don't have to, or even if my bag's just a third full, I'm still going to take the opportunity because if I get caught in one of those long stretches of desert land, and let's say I get a flat tire and now my bag is filling up, that is not the time where I want to have any regrets. So I take advantage of the bathroom opportunities every chance I get, whether I'm on the road or whether I'm flying. Now this can be a little unexpected, but it's also important to pay attention to the foods you're eating. Traveling is a great time to explore different menus and different meals, but our bodies may not be in sync with the new foods we want to try, and that can cause problems if we're not careful. So I'm very careful about what I eat when I'm on the road. I don't want any heavy output. I don't want any blockages. I don't want any problems whatsoever. So I keep it pretty simple. I always carry snacks. I carry pretzels generally. It's got some sodium and it's a simple, safe food for me, and I know that. So it takes the edge off my hunger, and I have a lot of confidence that I'll be able to eat pretzels or something like that without any issues whatsoever. So be aware of the foods you're eating. You don't want to run into any kind of issue with vegetables that may not be digesting properly, or sauces that may be causing irritation, or anything that increases output or liquidity of the output that could potentially increase your chances of getting a leak. All of these things are important. Also, hydration, right? It's important to pack a few electrolyte packets with you when you travel. You may not have access to electrolyte solutions everywhere you go, and that can be a problem for dehydration issues and higher output issues, especially if it's somewhere that's hot. And these types of things can end up having an impact on how much we enjoy our vacations. So carry electrolytes, keep the diet simple, and experiment with caution. So my final thought is, don't let your ostomy stop you from traveling and having fun and doing some exciting things. I'm flying home next month to see my sister. It's her birthday and we're having a big family celebration. I haven't been home in 5 years and I am excited. At first I had anxiety. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to fly again. I'm gonna have to go through TSA and get the pat down. I'm gonna have to sleep in her spare bedroom, and I already have sleeping issues. I don't need any other inconveniences like not having my pillow. I might have to fight for the bathroom with one of her kids. I might have a leak and end up messing up her bathroom. You know, there's all kinds of things that could happen that cause me a little anxiety when I'm outside my comfort zone. But I'll tell you this, going home to see my sister is going to be a wonderful thing. And I'm so excited. And sometimes when I really think about how lucky I am to still be here, that my stoma has kept me alive and I've been through colon cancer and all the things that go with that, that I want to make sure I'm continuing to take advantage of this opportunity to live my life. Because it's easy for me to sometimes say, hey, I'll just skip that or I'll stay home. And I would just want to remember, and this trip is helping me remember, that I want to live. I want to do some things. And I've been given the opportunity to do that. So I hope you feel excited about potentially traveling. I hope you do travel. And I hope you keep living your life to the fullest. Because the stoma doesn't have to keep us down. All right? Go get 'em, Tiger.